at a combined weight of 420 pounds. NSFW, not safe for wrestling.
Well, thank you for joining us for another episode of Beyond Compare Wrestling, and we are kicking it off with NSFW. Jordan Jones is back after being injured nearly 1 year ago. And with NSFW back in the tag team scene, the tag team division has just gotten shaken up for sure. One of the top tag teams in BCW before Jordan Jones' injury. The last time we saw these two compete, it was in that Beyond Rules match last October where they competed for the BCW World Tag Team titles. They're back in action tonight. Can they get it done?
Making their way to the ring, the team of Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan.
And their opponents tonight kicking off this gauntlet for the $1 million bounty. It will be Benson Hicks and his best friend and partner Fancy Dan. They will be making their tag team debut here tonight. Fancy Dan has been helping out Benson Hicks with this $1 million bounty. But tonight he's really helping him out as his tag team partner. Travis Watts, Fancy Dan. The bell has rung, the match is underway. A continuation from the episode last week. It was Travis Watts defeating Fancy Dan in that one-on-one match. And Fancy Dan, he still has those ribs taped up, and it was the ribs that really played a huge factor in Travis Watts picking up the victory over Fancy Dan. You know Fancy Dan, he wants revenge, but in this 2-on-2. Oh, and he's going for those rib shots right there. Oh, and just that hatch suplex, going right for the ribs. Huge target last week, and even bigger target this week. Travis Watts, he did that big double stomp from the top to the outside, and then he finished Fancy Dan off with that spear. And a big tag team maneuver coming here. Jordan Jones making his official return to competition after nearly a year. It is a hot summer night here in BCW, and it's getting even hotter with this tag team matchup. Dirty Don, he has that $1 million bounty on Benson Hicks. He hasn't been able to have anyone beat Benson Hicks one-on-one, so he has arranged some tag team matchups here tonight. If one can't get it done, maybe two can, and NSFW, they're looking real good here tonight. Jordan Jones off the second and crowns him right on the back, and he's taunting him. Fancy Dan, he's got to make the tag out. He has that huge target with his ribs. Now we got Benson Hicks in the ring. And they say styles make fights, and Benson Hicks, he is that former Golden Gloves boxer. He is that striker. He can knock you out with those tape fists. Whereas Jordan Jones, he predominantly likes to use his legs. So this is a kicker versus a puncher matchup here. And as I mentioned, it was Fancy Dan coming in with an injury, but if you're a Jordan Jones and you're coming back from an injury that took you out, oh, but Benson Hicks right here, that could put him out. If you are coming back from an injury that took you out for nearly a year, what is the state of Jordan Jones? Is he 100%? Is he fully healed? Does he have that ring rust? A lot of X factors, a lot of question marks when it comes to Jordan Jones. We know Travis Watts, he is in fighting shape. He beat Fancy Dan last week. Oh, but Fancy Dan getting cute and gets caught with that springboard punch right to the face. Travis Watts goes for the smart pin, puts himself between Fancy Dan and the ropes. Goes for that backbreaker, just obliterating the kidneys, the liver. We don't know exactly what the injury is to Fancy Dan. Could it be ribs? Could it be the liver? Could it be the kidneys? Could it be a torn abdominal muscle? I don't know what it is, but Jordan Jones right there with that huge shot right to the solar plexus, right into those ribs. Fancy Dan, I know he wants to help Benson Hicks, but this is an uphill climb. Coming in injured, he's obviously fit enough to compete. No wrestler is ever 100% going into a match, but Fancy Dan, he is way, way less than 100% compared to the rest of these competitors here tonight. And he goes for that huge DDT. It's one of his signature maneuvers. That swinging DDT where he kicks the leg out, really gets that momentum, that torque. And Benson Hicks uncharacteristically going to the top rope here, and he goes for a huge splash. 1-0 and a kick out at 1. I was just going to mention that Jordan Jones, he had that back injury that took him out, so that splash just crashing right on that midsection of a Jordan Jones, and now Benson Hicks up again. It worked well the first time, and it worked well the second time. Big shoulder block, knocking him down. Oh, and is he going for that Alabama slam by way of Texas? And hitting him there. And Jordan Jones, he's at a really weird angle. That Alabama slam may have knocked out Jordan Jones. He is looking real awkward. And Fancy Dan goes for the pin. Could this be it? 1, 2. Oh, and that could have been it. Travis, watch, he is the linchpin. He is picking up the slack for his team on that one, coming in and breaking it up. Now Fancy Dan to the top rope and a huge drop kick, but he lands directly on his back. That paid a lot of dividends, but that was high risk, high reward, and I think it was a little bit of both on that one. He got the reward from nailing that drop kick right to the face, but that is a lot of damage that he took to his back. And now Benson Hicks, is he going for that suicide dive, and he nails it. Patented suicide dive by Benson Hicks, and Jordan Jones, I don't know if he's fully healed from his injury. Benson there with a huge apron DDT. And when it comes to this $1 million bounty, you know NSFW, they could definitely use that $1 million. I'm sure Jordan Jones has a litany of medical bills after having that back injury inflicted on him by Ultimo Nightmare. And Benson Hicks from the top just absolutely obliterating his back with that elbow. Travis Watts nowhere to be seen. Can he pick up the win too? Got him. Benson Hicks picking up the win. Huge win for Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan over NSFW. But I think Jordan Jones, I don't think he was at 100%. I think he needed that money so bad that he tried to recover from his injury early. He came out, he wanted to win that $1 million. The deck was stacked in the favor of NSFW. Travis Watts, he beat Fancy Dan last week, and they are that established tag team going up against a debuting team. So a huge win here for Benson and Fancy Dan, but there is no rest for the wicked. They got their next match coming up right now.
Introducing the man known as Slug. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Liam No Honor Connors.
And here we go. We have Liam and Slug, this newly minted, pun intended because of the green, newly minted tag team here in BCW. They have a really unique mashup of styles. Got that MMA submission striking specialist Liam Connors and the big huge powerhouse of Slug. And the bell is rung, the match is underway. Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan, they probably went about 10 minutes in that last match, and they had about 30 seconds to recover before this match started, and a big shovel driver there from Slug. And Fancy Dan, he was grabbing his ribs there on the way up. And the longer this gauntlet goes, the longer each individual match goes, the more damage is going to happen to Fancy Dan. And each team that follows is going to have the knowledge of knowing exactly what injuries Fancy Dan is racking up in this one. How bad is that midsection going to be as this match progresses? And in terms of the potential competitors, you do not want a Liam Connors in the ring with you when you have an injury. We've seen Liam do that twister submission before. That will absolutely wrench your midsection. But Fancy Dan with a double underhook into the neck breaker, and he tags out to Benson Hicks. Oh, and a big, huge stuffs him right there with that big double leg takedown from Liam Connors. Shutting down the momentum of a Benson Hicks. Oh, and I think Benson might have been set up for the red, white, and bruise, but it just crumpled Liam Connors. Now Benson to the top rope. Hanging out no man's land. Oh, and missed. Thought he knew where Liam Connors was going to be, but Liam stopped short. Benson Hicks came up with no water in the pool on that one, and a big German suplex. Snap German. And a big takeover there, and just keeping him on the mat, and now wrenching that arm. Smart maneuver. Take out the arms of a Benson Hicks. Benson kick out at one. Take out the arms of a Benson Hicks. He is that striker. You're taking away a prime tool. And a big power bomb there. You would normally expect a powerbomb maneuver to come from Slug, the big powerhouse of the team, but Liam Connors, he is in fantastic shape, and another double leg takedown there. That double leg takedown has been his bread and butter. Smart maneuver there. Keep Benson grounded. If you are a striker, you're used to being on your feet. You're used to having that vertical base, so if you can keep taking Benson down, I'm sure Benson is not as comfortable on his back on the ground. And Benson Hicks, he might be a little woozy here. He's trying to hit Slug, but he keeps missing. Oh, and a big slap there, and a karate chop into a DDT. A little redneck foo there with that karate chop to the throat, it looked like. And a big shoulder block there from Slug. And Slug, he has been caught many, many times for posing it up to the crowd. He has been guilty of too much showboating. Fancy Dan comes in, big drop kick to the knee, taking out the big man. Again, destroying that vertical base. Slug does his best work when he can use that power, and that power is best utilized when he has that vertical base. What's he got here? Picking him up and drops him down. I think he was going for a suplex, but he came up short and almost turned it into a brain buster. Whatever it was a brutal maneuver. Can it be three? Oh, and only kick out at one. Oh, does he go for that DDT again? Swinging DDT, a lot of momentum, a lot of torque. Spins him out. 1, 2. Slug kicked out, but he was in the wrong part of town. He was in the wrong part of the ring. Fancy Dan, he's got to go for the covers more towards his corner, but I know what it's like when you're in the ring. Sometimes you just got to go for that quick cover. You don't have time to drag him. You don't want to waste those precious moments. Oh, and a big shot into the barricade. Now they're on the outside. This is where an injury can really happen, and a huge left to the solar plexus. And really grinding him down on the outside here. Slug doing a lot of damage here. Kick to the midsection, club to the back, and a club to the back of the head. Is he going to go for the count out win? Can Fancy Dan get back up and get back into this match? Referee urging Fancy Dan to get up and get in, and Fancy Dan is stirring. Can he beat the count? The count is real high. He's trying to run to get to the ring, and he just makes it back in at a count of 9. And he's going here for the Dandy. It's his finisher, the Dandy, on this near 300-pound Slug. 1, 2... Got him! Fancy Dan, right when you're just about to count him out and you think he's not going to be able to answer the 10 count, he comes back in, hits his finisher, and picks up a massive win. Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan are now one more win away from closing out this gauntlet. Who is the final team? We're going to find out.
making their way to the ring at a combined weight of 470 pounds, Hard Limit.
And here we go, the Goon Squad of Dirty Dawn, Hard Limit making their way to the ring. We got the big man, Sweetcox, and we have the Tool. And these two are the hired hitmen, the Goon Squad, as I mentioned, for Dirty Dawn. Dirty Dawn does not want to get his hands, pun intended, dirty, so he is sending out Hard Limit to do his dirty work for him. And after 2 matches, after nearly 20 minutes, I would say, of action, can Benson and Fancy Dan pick up one more win? And here we go, the final match in the gauntlet, Hard Limit versus Fancy Dan and Benson Hicks. And although these teams have never faced each other in a 2-on-2 tag team match, there has been a lot of matchups between these two when it comes to 1-on-1. There was that amazing trilogy between Fancy Dan and the Tool, who are in the ring right now. They had that trilogy of matches, and it was Fancy Dan closing out that series 2-1. There was also Sweetcox and Benson Hicks. They faced each other in 2 matches, with Benson Hicks picking up the win in both of those. So in 5 matches between these 2 teams, it was Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan picking up 4 out of 5 of those wins. But those were singles matches. This is tag team competition. And although Hard Limit do not have the best tag team record, they have faced some of the best teams in BCW. And they have all the tools to win it. And I think when it comes to the damage retention that Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan have, it might put Hard Limit in the catbird seat to come out with the victory here tonight. Oh, and Benson misses with that elbow. And another potential factor here is that $1 million bounty. It might just be the edict laid down to Hard Limit by Dirty Dawn that they are to come out here and just injure Benson Hicks. Claim that bounty. It doesn't matter if they win or lose this match. This might be a mission to injure, maim, and put Benson on the injured reserve list to ensure that he does not challenge Dirty Dawn for that BCW World title. We have our next pay-per-view rapidly approaching, where Benson Hicks will get his BCW World title shot. And the Tool right here with that big maneuver there, up and over the top rope. Oh! And the Tool, he has some amazing maneuvers that he pulls out. I don't know where he gets them. I don't know how he does it, but he comes out with some amazing maneuvers. We saw that in the trilogy against Fancy Dan. The Tool has such technical prowess, and as we see right here, spins him up and hits him with that head scissors. And just like the last team of... Oh, and a big, huge kick there. And just like the last team of Slug and Liam Connors, the Tool and Sweetcox, they have such a unique combination of that big man, little man. The Tool is so technical. He has moves for days, whereas Sweetcox, he is the heavy. He has all that power. And when you are mixing that combination up, it can be quite devastating, especially if you get a blind tag. You are expecting the Tool to do a maneuver like a suplex, and then you have Sweetcox come in there and just throw you right up into the lights, have you crash down on your sternum again, going after that midsection. And Dirty Dawn, the BCW World Champion, he is a ring general. He has some of the best game plans in BCW, and you know he was watching all those previous matchups. He must have given some special advice to Hard Limit to try and take out Fancy Dan and Benson Hicks. And Benson showing his power right there and picks him up and just knees right to the midsection, follows it up with a drop kick right to the face, just spinning out Sweetcox. Benson Hicks, he can knock you out with those fists, but a big drop kick to the temple, that could easily knock you out as well. And that is why Benson Hicks is the #1 contender. That's why he is on a collision course with Dirty Don, and just doing a little dance there, perhaps getting his second wind, perhaps getting that second dose of adrenaline. Oh, and he is chasing Sweetcox out. Sweetcox rolls to the outside, but Benson Hicks right to the top rope. Oh, and opts not to go. I think he knew that the Tool was probably going to come and rush him, throw him off that top rope, and if he would have got pushed from the top rope to the outside, that could have been a maneuver that could have easily led to injury. Oh, and just picking him up and just throwing him with his head bouncing off that corner beat of the apron. Benson Hicks turn him inside out. Puts himself between Sweetcox and the ropes, but Sweetcox kicks out at 1. Oh, it looked like he was going to go for that Alabama slam. Sweetcox, he's got him in the corner, and look at these shots. You can just feel that coming through your screen right there. Those are some big shots. That is some heavy leather, and those kicks. Sweetcox, as you can see, he's got big, huge tree trunks for quads. The size of Sweetcox's quad is about the same as the torso of Benson Hicks. But Benson Hicks powers out. Only a 1 count. Benson Hicks wants to defy all the odds. He wants to get to Dirty Don no matter what the cost. But Benson, he needs a breather. You can only kick out so many times. The body can only do so much before it gives out. The will can go all night long, but the body cannot keep up. Benson Hicks, he gets that few second breather, and now he's back in the ring with the Tool. Goes for the cover here on only a 1 count. It was in episode 13 that Benson Hicks faced the Tool. Benson Hicks came out with the win in that one. And a big shoulder block there. We've seen them do it before in the first match. Goes for the cover, but Sweetcox just all over Benson. Barely even a 1 count there. And what's Benson going for now? Oh, and a big running left to the head. Benson is that southpaw. That's where he generates all his power. What's he got going on here? Oh, potentially a double team maneuver, but Fancy Dan shot to the back of the head of the Tool. Picks him up, and if 1 is good, 2 is even better. Just landing him right on that groin. Oh, and Benson Hicks now, he's setting him up for that red, white, and bruised. This is the first time he's needed it in this gauntlet. And he is loading him up right here for the red, white, and bruised. That big elbow to the solar plexus. Goes for the cover. 1, 2. And the Tool kicks out. Benson Hicks cannot believe it. But the Tool's really feeling it, just clutching that chest. And the red, white, and bruised, it's that big elbow drop. Not only does the pain just radiate through your midsection, but it forces all the air right out of your body. And that was a huge DDT. The Tool seeing red, and is he going for the dandy? The Tool's on Dream Street. Can he pick up the victory? And again, Sweetcox right there. The only way Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan are going to pick up the win here is if they neutralize one member of Hard Limit. And perhaps that was the game plan laid out to them by Dirty Don. Just get in there, risk disqualification by just mauling just mauling the team of Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan when they go for the covers. And speaking of mauling, no technique there. Sweetcox comes in the ring. Oh, and just a punch to the face. That rocked Fancy Dan. A little sizzle on that slam right there. All power. Oh, and he's got him here with the eye of the hurricane. Just again, Fancy Dan falling on that back. I think Fancy Dan is getting to the limit here, and when he's Push to the limit. The Tool hits him with that toolbox. It's his finisher, and Benson, a little taste of their own medicine. Benson Hicks running right in there. Oh, and the Tool just throws him out and gives him that taunt like, you are gone, you are out of here. And this could be the opening for Hard Limit. Benson Hicks nowhere to be seen. Fancy Dan supremely injured. Big drop kick. Fancy Dan followed to the outside. Those mats are razor thin. Oh, and what's the Tool going for here? And a big splash to the outside. That was the precursor to how Fancy Dan lost against Travis Watts last week. It was that big double stomp from the top to the outside. Was the Tool watching that match? Was he studying it up? Oh, and another maneuver there. Hard Limit picking up some serious momentum. The Tool here, now he's going after Benson. Picks him up and slams Benson on the apron. Hard Limit, they're cooking now. Fancy Dan gets him back in the ring. Fancy Dan, he's got to go for something either big like a big German suplex like that, or he's got to go for something sneaky like a quick roll-up. Or perhaps now that Sweetcox is the legal man, get Sweetcox in a submission of some sort. Oh, and looked like he was going there for the Girthquake. But Fancy Dan reverses, hits Sweetcox with the Dandy, but the Tool just right over him. Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan, they cannot even get a 1 count in this match. That is how smothering Hard Limit is. Fancy Dan picks up Sweetcox, takes him to his own corner. A little double team here. Picks him up and launches him into the rafters. Oh, but Benson doing a little bit of taunting, getting a bit cocky, and the Tool with a drop kick to the back of the head follows it up with a shot right to the temple. Oh, and a maneuver right into the referee. I think that was intentional. I think the Tool threw him right into the ref intentionally, hit him with that neck breaker and picks him up. Power bomb, head just obliterating those turnbuckles on the way down. Hard Limit, they are cooking. This could be their opportunity. But Benson Hicks, realizing that, comes out with the big maneuver, knows he needs to do something big, hits him with that Alabama slam, but again, wrong part of the ring, making it real easy for the Tool to come in and break it up. And a big DDT on the apron. The Tool has been neutralized. What has Benson Hicks got now? Can he do something big? Sweetcox with the neckbreaker, and Sweetcox smartly knew that his tag team partner was incapacitated on the outside, rolls to the outside himself, and this is some valuable time for Fancy Dan and Benson Hicks to recover. And they made the tag, but I think Benson Hicks is the fresher man. You do not want to have Fancy Dan with that injured midsection in the ring with a Sweetcox. And because they had that few seconds to strategize, they had that few seconds to take a breather, they opted to have Benson Hicks in the ring. And those shots that Sweetcox just did to Benson Hicks, those big, brutal Muay Thai-esque knees, they would have been absolutely debilitating to a Fancy Dan. Better for Benson Hicks to take that shot. I mean, it's a bad maneuver no matter who's taking it, but it's better to have Benson Hicks take it than Fancy Dan. And now he is setting up Sweetcox for the red, white, and bruise. Sweetcox has felt this many times in his career, and Fancy Dan, he is running to the opposite side of the ring. He has grabbed the Tool, he has knocked him down. Benson going for the cover, the Tool being thrown out, and they pick up the win. Doing exactly what they need to do, neutralizing that second man. Both Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan have survived the gauntlet here tonight. Dirty Don thought that a tag team gauntlet might be better for the $1 million bounty, but it did not prove to pay any dividends. Your winners here tonight, Benson Hicks and Fancy Dan. And with Fancy Dan at Benson's side, is there nothing that these two can't do? Benson Hicks is on a direct collision course with Dirty Don. There is nothing Dirty Don can do that can stop Benson. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.